welcome to the Beez Knits Podcast. I'm Jess and I will be your host. If you are new, welcome. Thank you for joining me. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back week after week. I do not think you understand how much I love seeing that you guys keep coming back. So if you don't know, this is a knitting podcast and then I talk about movies and video games and whatever I want at the end. So first, let's just get started. I don't really have a lot of stuff. Before I get going, any of the information you need to find me on Instagram, Ravelry, with the Ravelry group for the podcast. Any of that stuff will be in the description box below, so anything you need, links probably down there. Also, show notes are in the Ravelry group, so if you have any questions about anything that I talk about, your best bet is that you'll probably find it there. Okay, let's get into finished objects. I have two. The first finished object I have 2 weeks ago when I podcast, I talked to you guys about a test knit I was doing for the lovely Vicky Bird. Let's see. Just as an FYI, I did record this yesterday. I didn't love how it turned out. I was super tired and you could tell, so I'm trying again. So I'm just trying to remember what I haven't said today. Let me roll up my sleeves. It is surprisingly warm in the house for how cold it's been lately. Also, in case you care, since I'm wasting time rolling up my sleeves, today is Wednesday, October 4th, and it is 10:42, so it's a little later than my normal podcasting time. Normally I podcast around Tuesdays at 10, so we're a little late, but it's better late than never. Okay, so last podcast, 2 weeks ago, I started working on a test knit for the susurration, I think is what they're called, socks pattern. Wow, I'm really having an issue with this one. Let's try again. Also, if you didn't notice, I'm not actually sitting on the floor today. I'm sitting on the couch. Tell me if you prefer this setup. I'm always trying to make it better. Let me know what you think. Okay, anyways, last podcast, I was doing a test knit for a pair of socks. The pattern came out yesterday morning. They are called, if I'm saying this right, the susurration socks. I'll put either the words here or I'll put it in the show notes for you. And, I forgot to check the price. I meant to do that for you guys. But anyways, these socks were a collaboration between Vicky Bird and Bee and Rose Yarn. They're friends and they did a collab, so they had a yarn and they made a little pattern for it. And it's really cute little thing. And the pattern came out yesterday, and I know that if you purchase the pattern, there is a 15% coupon code for Bee and Rose Yarn on Etsy. I'm pretty sure with the pattern purchase. So that's just like an extra bonus for you to, kind of give you some incentive and get you to try a yarn if you've never tried the brand before and get you to do the pattern. And yes, the pattern is $3.50 in Great British monies and $4.80 approximately in American monies. So I think it's a really great price point actually, because the sock comes in small, medium, and large size. The pattern is incredibly well written and it makes beautiful socks. And I don't have sock blockers, so I'm going to put this on my hand just to show you the pattern on these, because it is beautiful. Let me see if I can get this on my hand. Here we go. Okay. This worked out better yesterday. So it's harder to see with my yarn, I think, because it has too much of a difference between the dark and the lights in it. But as you can see, there's this wheat pattern. Do you see this with the little word for yarn overs in it to make this lace? There you go, wheat pattern. And on the side is like a grass stitch. So there you go. I think you can see that better like this. So you can see that. You can see the pattern. I think it's just hard to see on my small phone. Hopefully it'll show it better for you guys. So yes, these are the socks. Sock blockered. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah. Terrible view right there. So it is a toe up design, normal gusset and heel flap, kind of dealio. Pattern, like I said, was well written. It was made to kind of go with the kind of little like tonal speckled kind of yarns, so the pattern kind of fits nicely with that. And the only thing I have to say is that I don't think this is necessarily, I'm already getting my words tied up today, a beginner sock knitter pattern. I should say a beginner pattern, because if you're a sock knitter, that doesn't mean that if you're a beginner sock knitter, doesn't mean you didn't knit more complicated things not on a sock. There is a chart for the wheat pattern, and then there is the grass stitch, which is, it's not a complicated stitch. Seeing a bunch of letters lined up makes it seem more complicated than it is, but she describes it very nicely. And then the only thing I have to say that was actually difficult, maybe just for me, was you do short rows to compensate for this lace panel here. So you do short rows on the toe here, and then you do some short rows in the back here to kind of, make it even, we'll say. And the issue that I had with the short rows is not the ones on the toe. Those were fine. Those are normal short rows for me, and easy peasy, just normal knit short rows. But when you get to the top, you have to do the grass stitch basically in reverse. You're doing it on the purl side instead of on the knit side, and that it was fiddly for me. It took a lot of like mental effort to do. So don't try to do that while you're watching TV if you're like me, because you will make a mistake. Other than that one part being fiddly, I enjoyed it. I really loved the like rhythm that you get with the grass stitch throughout. I also think it's like a really classy look. These would be beautiful socks to wear with the dress. They'd be beautiful socks to give as a gift, even. It's an all-around win, and especially for that price point, you should give them a shot. They're beautiful. Okay, enough of that. I talked a bunch about that so that you guys know that I loved it and that you should try it out yourself. My only other finished object, I shouldn't say only other because I'm still wicked happy that I finished these. If you remember, for like the last million podcasts, I've been doing the bare minimum to finish a pair of socks. Let me see. In this yarn, which is the Big Twist, bulky ombres in Whisper. And I told you how much I hated it. And this is all I have left. I'm officially done with this. This is not enough for a whole project. So I'm finally done playing with that yarn. And I finished the socks. See? Two pair. One pair, two socks. The last time I left you, or at least last time I worked on them, I had just finished the heel flap itself, and I just had to pick up the stitches. So it was either only a day or two where I got my shit together and picked up the stitches and just buckled up and said, I'm gonna do this, and did all of this. So I finished those, I think Monday. I was just like, I might have done it all Monday, but I got it done. And it wasn't hurting my hand too bad because it was a little warmer in the house, because when it's cold, my hands start to hurt much more quickly from knitting, probably because I don't do it ergonomically, and I should look into different ways of knitting. I'm moving around a lot today, I'm sorry. So I took advantage of the fact that it wasn't bothering me, and I just like busted through it and finished them up. So these are for my mother-in-law for Christmas. I think she's gonna like them, and I think that they look nice, but I hated knitting these ones. The yarn ruined this project for me. So I cannot wait to cast on my next pair of these for Christmas, because they're going to be like, what's the word? I don't even know. But it's not validation. God, cannot remember. Anyways, redeeming this. I love these socks. I hate this yarn. So that is that. I only have one pair left to do for Christmas gifts, and then that is done. So I'm feeling good about that. Let me check my show notes real quick. Okay, finished objects. Finished. Work in progresses. I have one. Last time we talked, I'm quite certain that I was already working on this. And so this is the yarn. If you remember, it is Lion Brand, the pound of yarn in the color Claret, if I'm remembering correctly. Just a, the generic worsted acrylic you can get from any craft shop. And I had cast on the Boylan Knitworks by Caitlin Hunter, I think. I wrote down stuff on a piece of paper, but I also have the same notes on my laptop, and look at my laptop once, and I don't have her last name on it now, so it's driving me nuts. But I'm 90% sure I'm correct. All the correct information will be in the show notes. And I had started it, and I really just had the ribbing in a few rows. Well, now, after about 2 weeks, not total knitting on it for 2 weeks, mind you, I've got this much. I know that it seems really dark. It is a dark color. So let me just try to hold it up here. And if I have to, I'll insert a picture or you have it in the show notes. So you can see this panel, the front half has seed stitch, and the back is just plain stockinette. The lighting, you can kind of see it, right? Anyways, so that's that. And the other thing, other than the textured front, is that we actually have like a high-low situation going on here. Let me try to show. Here you go. So this is the front, and the longer side's in the back, so you can kind of see, if I hold it straight, that there's definitely, you know, a drapiness to the back. So that's going to be nice. I like the high-low, like the little extra to cover your bum kind of design. Sometimes it's nice to just have a little asymmetry in your hemlines. So I have to do 18 inches from the bottom to like the top for the armhole area. And so I'm, you know, this far in. I haven't measured yet. I did yesterday hold it up like to my underarm and go down, and I was like, oh, perfect. It's like not even to my natural waist yet. So I've got quite a lot of knitting to do. I did not do a swatch to do gauge. I just kind of took myself to like the largest size and said, let's go. This is my second cake of yarn for the sweater. I've got like 12 or 14 that I got out of the 2 big pound skeins. So I've got more than enough yarn as far as I'm concerned to get that done. Let's see. Stash enhancement. One thing. We are blasting through this episode, guys. There's no point in wasting your time or mine by saying and thinking. So let me see. I have got one thing for stash enhancement when rewind. Last week, Kemper from Junk Yarn had a trunk show at a yarn shop, and she came home with some extra yarn that she had not sold there and listed it up on her site. And I looked, because I just wanted to see, you know, what was there, if I was going to, you know, consider picking up anything. 9 times out of 10 when I look, I don't buy. I just imagine buying. So I looked, and Drew was up there, and I don't know who the colorway is named after, because she names all her colorways after important women in history and female characters in books and stuff. So I don't know particularly who this is named for, I just knew I had to have it. I saw someone made a pair of socks in this colorway when I was looking on Ravelry. I don't even remember what socks. I don't remember who it was. I just know that I saw the colorway and I was like, I need it. And then I was obsessing over trying to pick it up since. And every once in a while I would catch her update and look, and she didn't have it up. So I finally found it, and it was Monday, and I was like, I don't need it. I don't need any more yarn. I'm not going to buy it. And then I obsessively thought about it until Tuesday morning, and I was like, maybe if it's still online now, I'll pick it up. You know, maybe it's one of those meant to be things. And I didn't figure it was going to be there. And lo and behold, there it was. So I ordered it Tuesday morning, and it was in my hot little hands by Friday afternoon. I did not touch it until yesterday when I tried to podcast. And then once I realized I didn't really like it, I was like, it's too late. I already wrapped it up. So here is the cake of Drew. And it is this kind of like creamy banana color with fuchsia and aqua and navy speckles. So just accept the beauty that is Drew. When you get a chance, get this for yourself. Look at how pretty this is. I cannot wait to cast this on. I will not be casting it on right now because I have a couple of other projects that I want to get done, but I'm thinking if I don't do it before the new year, this might be the new year cast on. I don't know. Planning everything to cast on once, January 1st comes around is silly, but I really, really want to cast this on. I'm loving it. Just, there you go. For you. So pretty. If you've never checked out Kemper's yarn, check her out. She's a dying genius. I love a lot of her colorways. She has, like, Eternal Sailor Moon, I think is one that I almost bought. I love that one too. But Drew is hands down my favorite, and so I had to get it. And before I forget, this is her Smooth Sock base. It's a 4-ply, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. It's 463 yards for 100 grams. So this is the little ball band that it comes with. And how cute is that? So, yep, that is everything. Also, if you want to check her out, she has some patterns on Ravelry, and she is on Instagram, and I'll put all the information in the show notes, because you should check her out, because I love it. I'm so, so, so excited, and I cannot wait. And I'm feeling like, if I remember correctly, the more nylon, the stronger the sock. So I'm thinking that these would be some nice, long-wearing socks. I'm thinking maybe vanilla socks with an afterthought heel, because I want to try an afterthought heel, but we'll leave that for a decision of another day. That is all that I have there. My knitting plans. I have legitimate knitting plans. One thing is to cast on the next set of... Oh, jeez. While I get distracted. I can't show you because I'm sure I'll scare them away. But I have a porch outside the window where I'm sitting. And we have little posts. And on top of the post, if you imagine this is the post, a little chipmunk just keeps standing right here. And we have a bunch of ivy growing around, so it's all covered up. And so it's like he's popping his head out of all the leaves just sitting there. And he's been doing this for a week. And it is just so funny to see him just standing there watching everything. So I get distracted by him. Back to what I was talking about. The rye socks. I'm going to cast those on this week to get them started, because if I don't start them, then they'll never get done. We know how this goes. Another thing is I would like to be wearing my shawl that I had knit recently, the Normal Into shawl with the MCN by Haute Knit Yarn, but I dropped it in some dusty, messy stuff. Ugh. I sat on the couch and it slipped off into the abyss that never gets cleaned. Do you have, maybe you're better than me, but that corner that just, everything just, you've got the table and you just don't really bother moving stuff to clean? Well, I dropped it there. So now I've got to wash it. But the good news is that I have some mats, so I can try to actually block the shawl at the same time that I wash it. So I think, it kind of evens out. Fair enough anyway. But I can't wear it until I block it, but I just got the mats, so... It's a good thing it kind of warmed up this week, so I feel a little less bad about not wearing it, because I just want to wear it all the time. I love the way it feels. It's so squishy and so soft and so warm. Okay, knitting plans. Plan 2 is to cast on the Clark socks by Jacqueline Smith of Brooklyn Knit Folk. Everyone has been talking about these socks with good reason. They're beautiful. You haven't seen them? Then go check them out. Also, Candace from Pin Feathers and Pearls podcast. If you haven't checked her out, check her out. She's amazing. She's great. She's funny. Check out her podcast. She is doing a mint along, a mint knit along. So grab yourself some minty yarn and find something to knit and join that. So, also, before I forget, the Rye Socks by Tin Can Knits. If you're making anything by Tin Can Knits, put it in the Grocery Girls Tin Can Knits knit along they're doing. Just do it. And also, if you're not, pick up one of their patterns. They have free ones. If you're not sure, knit yourself a Christmas gift, a gift for someone else, someone to wear. Just do it and join that knitting knit along as well. Whew, losing words. Anyways, so watch Grocery Girls, do their knit along. Watch Pin Feathers and Pearls. Do her mint along. That is, what I'm sending you to do. That is your homework. You don't have homework, but you should really do it. So she's doing this mint along, and I'm going to do the Clark socks in this mint yarn that I dyed up. And I made a contrasting color, a toe for contrast, heels, toes, and cuffs. It's going to be kind of like a beet, like a fluorescent beet-ish color, hopefully. It's sitting in the pot now, finishing up cooling and such, so I can't share that with you yet, but I can share with you the actual mint color for the socks. And I have named it Lake Monsters in Love because I couldn't help myself. I was thinking about naming it after Champy, and then I had considered naming it, after Nessie, and I was thinking, and I just kind of went with that. And so that is what I've named it. And here, if you want to take a look, the color is a little bluer on screen. It runs a little more yellow in real life, but it's still minty. And let me just show you some of the pretty parts. Like this hot pink speckle section. And my favorite part is all these speckles here. Do you look at those? And when you're looking at those, look at these. So yeah, this is the yarn that I made. And let me see for you. Give a little twist of Rooney. Get a whoop, nice look at this here. It doesn't skein up as pretty for you to see the speckles, but the mint and the hot pink with some speckles here. But I mean, they're in there. So this is just like, see, look at that. Speckles. They're there. This is kind of, a PSA for that, in that, I can't remember who said it. It might have been Stacy from Stress Knits, where she said, don't be disappointed by your yarn if, it doesn't look like what it comes. If it doesn't look like the picture online, because when you skein these up, you just twist them up and you send them, off to their new home. And sometimes you just don't get to see all of the speckly goodness because of the way it gets, the way it gets twisted. So open it up and take a look, because that twisted versus this untwisted, they're totally different. So anyways, this is going to be my Clark socks. I think this is going to be perfect for the mint along. And I suggest that you also, think about getting yourself some mint yarn, taking some mint yarn out of your stash if you're as mint obsessed as some of us are, and, join in. That is all of the knitting plans plus Beez Knits yarn that I have to share with you right now. The rest is kind of just general stuff. So if you came for only knitting and yarn related stuff, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you next week. And if you want to, we'll talk about movies in a minute. Okay, so for those of you who want to stay, movies. I watched a bunch in the past 2 weeks. We watched Children of the Corn. If you haven't seen it, don't put it on your must-watch list. It wasn't spectacular. It was not the worst movie I saw this, time around, but don't go clamoring to go watch it. I don't know. It's very strange. It's definitely unsettling, but kind of lame at the same time. So that's that. I'm not going to go too deep into stuff this week. I just kind of want to get this podcast done and put up for you guys, because I'm actually going to have lunch with my brother soon, and I just want to have all the podcasts done before I have to leave, and I've got to get ready to go in less than 20 minutes. So the next movie we watched was The Devil's Candy. It has quite a few actors that we've seen in other things. I say we, you and I, but maybe you haven't watched the same stuff I've watched. But the wife/mother in the movie is, in The Meddler, a movie with, I feel like it's Susan Sarandon was in it. That was pretty funny. Not nearly as great as My Name is Doris, which you should watch if you haven't seen it. Sally Fields is perfect in that movie. I cannot even go into how much I loved her as this character and how much I felt for her and just how perfect that movie was. And then the husband slash dad is the guy who plays him plays Coyote in the Netflix original Grace and Frankie with Lily Tomlin and, oh my god, what's her name now? Jane Fonda. There we go. I knew it. So if you haven't seen that show, also check it out. We've got everyone in the family watching that because that is a perfectly 100% hilarious show. It's not appropriate for some younger people, some people might think. It talks about some sex related things that you may not want children to see depending on their age and depending on your, philosophy in your home life. But, I mean, if you're an adult, watch it. At least give it a shot. The women are so perfect. Can I just tell you? Watch it. Anyways, back to the actual movie, The Devil's Candy. It was good. My husband really liked it. It's rated really well on Rotten Tomatoes, but I personally was not enamored by it. I felt like it was very heavy-handed with the symbolism and the imagery, and I felt like they could have been a little less heavy-handed, but I guess it's much more mainstream that way. A lot of people don't like having to think deeply about their movies. It wasn't not entertaining. I would suggest it to certain people, but it would not be my top suggestion. I mean, it's a solid, 3.5 to 4 out of 5. It's not bad. Would I watch it again? Probably not, but some people might like it, because I guess a lot of people liked it, just not me. Also, I watched Little Evil, which has, I believe his name is Adam Scott from Parks and Recreation, and I thought it was going to be a total bummer and a dud, but it was actually much better than I thought, and it had kind of a twist that I didn't quite see. Going into it, the child seems more like a devil child, and he seems like he's the devil himself, and, he's the bringer of the apocalypse, but that's not the case at all. It's quite funny, actually. Definitely is a lighthearted, kind of like a lighthearted take on The Omen, if you've seen that. Also, The Omen is very long, and you don't have to watch it if you don't want to. It's not a classic because it's spectacular. It's just a classic because at the time, it was different. I don't know. There's something to be said about movies that are actually good and movies that are good or, important in their genre or in the aspect like that. A lot of the older slasher films people don't love because they're kind of slow, but other people love them. And I don't know. I watched The Omen. It was a long time ago, though, so I still have to watch it again because Nate wants to watch it. So maybe when I watch it, I'll have a different opinion on it. So actually Little Evil was good, and I would tell people to watch it. That would be one of my recommendations, for sure. That was a 4 out of 5. Yes, I'm rating stuff today. We also watched A Grand Night In, The Story of Aardman. Aardman is the studio, along with Nick Park, that does Wallace and Gromit, if you know that. They've done movies like Chicken Run, Flushed Away, the Wallace and Gromit Were-Rabbit movie, and all that kinds of stuff. So they're big-time stop-motion animation, mostly claymation. They have done other media, like Flushed Away with CGI, if I remember correctly. And so I'm a huge fan of stop-motion animation. I'm a huge fan of claymation. I love Wallace and Gromit. I think that there's just something about them that everybody can love. That, I mean, they're universal. Oh, Shaun the Sheep. That's another one that's just universal. You don't have to be able to speak any language to love Shaun the Sheep. He is a, everybody kind of thing. There is no language barrier with Shaun the Sheep. And I believe that if you haven't watched any of these things, that you need to watch something. Because you are missing out big time. Anyways, so it just talks about, how they all got put together, and even just the beginnings of Aardman. And what's interesting is Aardman was a character that they did in the 70s, if I remember correctly. And he's actually a mix of, Superman and, an aardvark. So that's what the name Aardman is. So that's funny. They're just a bunch of funny guys. If you have any interest in, documentaries about filmmaking, or if you have like any kind of interest in stop motion animation, different animators, different styles, check it out. You might learn something interesting. It might be of interest to you. I would give it a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed the movie. But also it kind of rolls into like the stuff that I like. It's very much in the group of stuff that I care about and am most interested in. The last thing I feel like is the most important movie to talk about. I watched the documentary Feel Rich, and the basic synopsis of this movie is it's a documentary about people within the hip hop community talking